Guys, and welcome to my new video, and today we'll be talking about Shadowlands and some of the features that I'm a little bit worried about. Overall, I feel that in terms of the announcements about what's happening in terms of Shadowlands, the new features, things like that, I think they're very exciting and some of them are really cool. But I wanted to make a video about things that I'm a little bit scared about in terms of Blizzard's reliance to change or to go back to the way things were. Specifically about two features, and we'll be talking about those. But first I want to kind of cover the concepts that I think I really like, or the concepts that I think have a potential to be really strong. Tower of Torghast. So first of all, I know a lot of people have been watching Shadowlands and, you know, Shadowlands previews and new features, and Tower of Torghast is probably the #1 new feature coming into World of Warcraft, and it absolutely makes sense. So first of all, this video is going to be discussion based. I don't really have a script. I'm just kind of talking about things that I enjoyed and things that I'm scared about. Tower of Torghast is one of the things that I'm actually really excited about. So first of all, a lot of people will compare Tower of Torghast to Horrific Visions, and I guess it's a good comparison to make, because think about it. Blizzard has been testing features that will possibly be a staple of World of Warcraft. So if you go to MOP, you start seeing that there were challenge modes, which is basically Mythic Plus. Challenge modes were a big success to some extent. They weren't available to everybody, or not everyone was doing it, but in Legion they opened up Mythic Plus, which was this, you know, the next step from challenge modes. And Mythic Plus became one of the biggest things that World of Warcraft has introduced in the last couple of years. It became a staple of World of Warcraft. Now you either play World of Warcraft for PvP, raiding, which has always been there, or Mythic Plus. Mythic Plus has become one of the big things. So all of a sudden, I feel that Blizzard is trying to do the same thing with Tower of Torghast. They've tested Horrific Visions in BFA. I think to some extent Horrific Visions were a huge success. Just remember when first Horrific Visions came out, a lot of people really enjoyed it. A lot of people were like, give us more tries, I want to practice this. Or for the first time ever, as a solo player, I'm getting some competitive content out there. A lot of players don't like, even in MMO game, and leave your comments below here because I really want to hear this. A lot of players, sometimes they don't want to group up. They want solo content. They don't want to rely on someone else to show up online, to be invited, to set up. They just want some sort of a solo content that they can do middle of the night if they wake up for whatever reason. They have nothing else to do. They have insomnia and whatever. They log on to World of Warcraft and they start doing some solo content to pass the time. I honestly feel that's what Horrific Visions were intended for, mainly solo content. I enjoy doing Horrific Visions in solo groups, or just as myself, to test myself, to see how much I can improve. And I feel Horrific Visions were very good. The problem with Horrific Visions right now is that they're so goddamn boring. There's literally nothing. It's been done 100 times again. There is no new affixes, there's no new content. You're just doing this, especially if you have multiple ads. I have 6 characters that I do Horrific Visions, and I spend more time in Horrific Visions than I spend in Mythic Plus or raiding. And that's because of how Horrific Visions, how much time investment you need because of the cloak and the item levels. So I hate Horrific Visions at this point. There needs to be new stuff. Horrific Visions were never meant to last for this long. Let's be honest. It was never meant to last 6 months. It was amazing for what it was, but the content ran out. So this is why I love Tower of Torghast. Because Tower of Torghast, at least from what I've seen, it's going to it's going to last for a lot longer. They have their own talent systems, like something similar to what Azeroth's, where there's a lot of depth to Tower of Torghast, and I think Blizzard is really pushing Tower of Torghast to become the next staple of World of Warcraft, to the same extent that Mythic Plus were from MOP to Legion. So I feel Tower of Torghast, they're gonna try and make this really work. Now the things that I'm scared about, the things that I'm not 100% certain about, and this is a list of the things that I'm scared about. All of these abilities, these abilities had global cooldown attached to them in BFA. So you can see there's a lot, especially this. I really hate this. As a Holy Paladin, having Aura Mastery, Holy Avenger, and Avenging Wrath being on global cooldown. Something that I really didn't enjoy. But this is why I'm talking about this, because global cooldown has been added in BFA, and first of all, there's been a lot of interviews, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this again. This is all discussion based. There's been a lot of interviews. You had an interview with Morgan Day with Preach, you had an interview with Ian, with Sleuth, and there's been questions asked about global cooldown and is Blizzard sticking with it. So first of all, when they first introduced global cooldown in BFA, first I have to ask why. That's the #1 question asked. why did they add global cooldown? No one really complained about the fact that they were pressing abilities too quickly. It was something that came out of nowhere, in my honest opinion. And I don't think the change should have even been... They shouldn't even think about adding global cooldown to an issue that was never an issue. There's so many more issues with World of Warcraft where the community base is raving about and unhappy about, but they chose to focus on something that no one cared. No one cared about this. So that's my first gripe about this. Second of all, I can see why they added it, but they shouldn't have added it, in my opinion. So global cooldown is gonna slow down in gameplay, and the number one complaint was that, hey, I gotta wait 6 seconds. I gotta press these abilities, and I gotta wait 6 seconds before I'm gonna start DPSing or healing. And it can feel terrible if, for example, you get caught out. Let's say you're a Holy Paladin, and damage happened, everyone's losing HP. Avenging Wrath or a Mastery, Holy Avenger, if you're popping all of these, you're spending substantial amount of time in a dead zone where you have nothing to do. Now, Blizzard tried to fix this. Because they saw that people were really complaining about this, because what the hell, the game is so slow right now. So this is a changelog for Celestial Alignment for balance rules, so you can see that increasing damage of all of your spells by 15 and granting you 15% haste for 20 seconds. This was at patch 8.01 and 8.15. This is when Blizzard tried fixing the global cooldown issue, and they added initial gain by pressing buttons. So all of a sudden now, granting 40 astral power and then increasing your damage to the same exact extent that they were looking at Ascendance. If you're a Resto Shaman and you pop Ascendance, there's going to be initial burst of healing, which is very strong in things like PvP content. So Blizzard wanted to, hey, global cooldown sucks, but we got you covered. We're gonna make sure that pressing these dead abilities, or these long abilities at the start, are gonna grant you a bonus. And you can see here, Blade Flurry in Shadowlands, they've added strikes up to 5 nearby targets for a specific amount when you pop it, and then it goes to do its normal thing. So you get this initial benefit. And there's been, like I mentioned, multiple interviews about global cooldown change, and what kind of really scared me a bit is that a lot of these interviews, and I'll play a clip, just listen to this clip right now.
And the correct answer is, well, now I'm just gonna take 6 seconds to push these 4 buttons, and then I can start DPSing. Like, that doesn't feel good. I think we agree that's a problem. Mm-hmm. Where we maybe disagree is, I don't think the answer to that problem is just pull them back off the GCD.
So this is what kind of scares me, that they're aware of the problem, but they don't want to go back to it. They want to go back to the whole point of making each ability do something on activation, which makes sense to the same extent. But I honestly feel, this is my opinion and I want to hear this, this whole section of global cooldowns was never needed and should have never been added, in my honest opinion. It's something that no one really cared about, no one really complained about, no one noticed it. Everyone enjoyed, in my opinion. Everyone liked the fast gameplay. Everyone liked applying, getting your cooldowns quickly so you can DPS and heal. And like in the Holy Paladin case, there was a big skill cap with Aura of Sacrifice, which required you to pop your cooldowns quickly. So I feel like this should have never made it into any expansion. And Blizzard even mentioned that we're gonna try or trial BFA in terms of global cooldown, see how it works, and then we'll see where we go. I honestly feel the global cooldown change has been a failure, which is fine, because you want to try out new things, you want to try out new concepts, you want to see how the community is going to react. But my honest opinion, they should just go back. I don't see a reason why spend so much time changing every single ability here, making it feel more useful or more meaningful to press it, instead of just reverting everything and just removing global cooldown from these. Love to hear your opinion on this. Next change, and that is going to be a big one, is they're going to cap AoE damage. So this is something that is quite a hot topic right now. This is, in my opinion, again, it has the potential of being really not fun. And this is one of the things that scares me about Shadowlands. In theory, I really enjoy a lot of things about Shadowlands, but capping AoE damage is something that I've been very scared about, and this might fall into the same category as global cooldown change. So the reason why they're capping this is pretty simple. MDI level type of plays, where you're pulling half the room, and you can see clips of Unholy DKs. Unholy DK AoE scaling, the quadratic scaling, is completely broken to a fact where you want to add more mobs and their DPS is going to increase substantially. And it kind of made this gameplay of, hey, let's pull a whole room, do like incredible amount of AoE damage, and let's move on to the next room. And this was quoted as being like a degenerate gameplay, which I kind of understand. I can see why people would call this degenerate gameplay, because it's not what Blizzard intended at the start. Now, what Blizzard is trying to do, they're capping AoE damage from basically everybody. Now you have like multi-shot, can only strike to 5 targets, Divine Storm, Blade Flurry, just basically everything. Everything's being capped to 5 or 8 targets or something along those lines, meaning that you won't see big pulls, meaning basically every week is going to be bolstering week. That's what it compares to. Every week is going to be bolstering week, where you won't be pulling more than 8, at least depending on your composition. Because after you pull, and it feels really weird, after you have like 9 targets, like the 9th target is going to take no damage. Again, this is oversimplifying it, but if you just pull 9 targets, everyone's going to die except for that one target. And it kind of feels weird. Now, like I mentioned, I feel some people will really like this and some people will really hate this. I can see logically why they're doing this. MDI type of level plays are kind of degenerate. They're kind of insane. Having to pull the whole room, and you don't care about the, you just burst everyone down before they can do anything. It's kind of insane. It makes certain classes super overpowered and certain classes not so strong. So they're trying to cap AoE damage, making certain, or trying to fix the class balance. I can see why they're doing that. But how does it feel? It comes down to the same global cooldown change. Logically, I can see why they're doing it, but how does it feel to play the game? And the prime example of this AoE capping is Restoration Shamans. I do horrific visions on all the healers, do the 5 masks and all that. And generally speaking, I always joke about this on my stream. Resto Shamans are living in Shadowlands at this point because their AoE is severely capped. Chainline can only hit 3 targets or 2 to 3 targets. Flame Shock has a cooldown, so you can't apply it beyond the 4th person. So basically, you cannot pull, or if you pull packs that are like 4, 5, 6 trash packs in them, you can't do anything to a lot of those mobs. You literally cannot do anything. You can only apply Flame Shock to a certain amount of targets consistently. Your chain lightning is capped, and if you don't have Twilight Devastation, you're basically doing nothing to anyone beyond the first 3 targets. So all of a sudden, this is what Shadowlands is gonna look like. Go play your Resto Shaman in Visions and see how it feels. Now, when I compare my experience when I play Holy Paladin in Visions or Resto Druid, where they don't have AoE cap on Consecration or Swipe and things like that, I really kind of like doing big pulls, doing big AoE damage, optimizing my AoE, versus Resto Shaman, who has to play really slowly, they really have to think about every pull. They can't do big pulls. They have to basically play like it's bolstering week. So I can generally see, logically speaking, why they're doing AoE capping, why they're doing global cooldown changes. I can see it in terms of class balance, in terms of, making your cooldowns feel more relevant or more important when you press them, or logically having to think before doing a pull. Should I pop my cooldowns? Or if I'm going to pop my cooldowns, I should do it now instead of later. It makes sense. But how does that make you feel when you play the game, in theory? For the normal player who's not doing MDI type of level plays and things like that, AoE cap might not be a huge thing because they might not be pulling big trash pack pulls. But in terms of solo play, in terms of Tower of Torghast, will you be doing AoE pulls? Everything's going to be slowed down. It's kind of like a bolstering week every week. And global cooldown slows everything down. I feel the game is going towards, let's slow everything down. You need to pay attention to every trash pack pull, or you can't pull more than 5 because you don't have a comp in your Mythic Plus group beyond 5 targets. So you have to do super small pulls, even though you could handle larger pulls. And the same thing with global cooldown, where everything's being slowed down. So I'm just going to ask you, is this going to feel good? I can see why they're doing this, but I don't think this is going to make a fun gameplay. Now, I'm still not 100% sure on the AoE cap. This might work out. Maybe all the trash pack mobs are going to be so hard that you're not going to want to pull more than 5 or 8 mobs at a time. So maybe that's going to be fine. So I'm not completely against the AoE capping of abilities. And if that's going to make class balance a bit better, maybe it's going to work out. So generally speaking, I want to hear your opinion on this. In terms of global cooldown change, I really wish they just went back to what it used to be. And instead of spending more time trying to fix it, just go back. I feel it's going to make the gameplay more fun because it's going to be faster. I like fast gameplay. And I like pulling a lot of trash pack mobs. But I want to hear what you think. And this was somewhat negative or criticizing a lot of the functions that are happening in Shadowlands. But keep in mind, there's a lot of stuff that's really, really interesting. I'm super excited about Shadowlands. I'm just expressing my opinion about things that I'm a little bit scared of. I'm a little bit unsure of. I'm not sure how these are going to affect my gameplay. I'm not sure if these are going to be better. This is why I'm making a video because, again, this is alpha, this is beta. I feel they want to have people's feedback in order to make the game better. So it's better to provide feedback now than later before they won't make any changes. So let me know how you feel about this discussion video. Really interested in hearing your opinions about these two topics and basically features that you're most excited about in Shadowlands. Let me know, guys, and I'll see you in my next guide.